In this video I'm going to cover some different sets of jazz chords, and then I'm going to talk about the order in which you should learn them. So for each set of chords I'm going to sort of cover the basic set and talk a little bit about how you use them, because I think it's important that you actually learn the chords in a certain order so that you can gradually build a vocabulary of chords that you can also use to make music. So I'm not really going to focus on sort of the chord names that we talk a lot about in jazz, like drop 2 and drop 3 and chordal harmonies and upper structure triads, because I think it's much more important that you just focus on learning some basic sets of chords and then really use those to play songs and comp and make music. My name is Jazz Larsen. If you want to learn jazz and make music, then subscribe to my channel and click the little bell notification icon so you don't miss anything. So to get started having sort of a basic set of chords that can cover everything that we're going to come across in a song, then it makes sense to just start with having complete voicings where we can easily find them, and we have the root of the voicing or the root of the chord on the 6th string and on the 5th string. That's going to make it easy for you to find chords and remember them and figure out what you need. So a basic set of chords that will cover this could be something like this. These two sets of chords are really useful because they're fairly easy to play. They contain all the information that you need, so they don't really have a lot of extensions, so they're easy just to apply to songs and they're not going to get in the way that easily. And you probably also kind of recognize them, because if I'm playing a C7 like this, you can probably see that that's really just a part of this bar chord that you already know for a C7, except in jazz we don't like to double all the notes. The fact that we have the root in there as the lowest note means that we also have sort of a complete picture of the harmony. So when you're playing songs, and in the beginning this is really important, you can really hear what the harmony sounds like. These voicings are the complete sound of the chord, so you can easily use them if you're learning a new song and you want to hear what the harmony or the chords really sound like. They of course also then work really well in a duo, and as you will see if you start working with them, is that it's also fairly easy to start adding some extensions and a little bit more color to them and make the comping a little bit more interesting. You can also easily develop these into rootless voicings, as you'll see in the next level, and that's going to open up for a lot more color and a lot more interesting things with the chords. With the chords from level 1, you can play the songs and you can really hear what the harmony sounds like. But once you get that into your system, and especially if you also want to start playing in bands, then it's really useful to not play the root all the time. So get out of the bass player's way. And the other advantage to doing that is that once you start doing that, then there's more room to do something with the remaining voices, and you can do a lot more interesting things and add color, extensions and melody to the chords that you're playing. So if we do that with the basic set that I covered in level 1, then we get these voicings. Now that we are leaving out the lower note, then we can start working on doing something more with the remaining 3 notes. So if we take the C7, so if I leave out the root, then I have these 3 notes. And then I can start messing around with using some melody on the top part of this, so I can really just change the top note. And that's of course easy to do because I don't have to play the C at the same time, and I can even maybe add one more string, so now I go back to having 4 notes, but I'm adding a higher string, so like this. And that way, just thinking from this voicing that I'm turning into this, I have actually this, and this voicing. And of course, in this case it's C7 is an F major, so the remaining notes that I'm using are actually coming out of the key, so that's just coming out of F major in this area. And another thing that's worth noticing here is also that this is in fact a triad, because if I take a C7 and then leave out the C, then that's an E diminished triad. So every time I'm going to leave out the root note, I have a triad. So you can also mess around with using the triad and the inversions of that, but we'll get to inversions in the next level. When you go from level 1 to level 2 and start leaving out the root, then you have these voicings that are essentially triads, but they're much more flexible. You can do a lot more with them. You can start having melodic ideas in your chords, and you're not getting in the way of the bass player, and you can still pretty much hear the complete harmony, and it works extremely well in a band setting. One thing that you'll hear really often when it comes to people talking about chords, and especially jazz chords, is to learn chords and also learn inversions. Now, until now I kind of stayed away from the inversions in the 2 previous levels, and I'm going to talk about it in this level. But the reason why I'm not so focused on inversions is that I find very often that people will sit down and they'll learn a chord, they'll start learning all the inversions, but they're not really spending the time to make music with the chords or the inversions. And 99% of the time, that's a complete waste of energy. You want to make sure that whatever chord you're working with and you're learning, that you also use that in a piece of music. Otherwise, you're probably going to forget it, and it's not really, what's the point of learning it if you're not going to use it? When I was exploring the rootless voicings, then I also came across some 4-note voicings that sounded really good. So for the C7, this one, which is of course this C7 coming from this one, and then with the added extra note on top here. The same goes for A minor. This is the basic A minor without the root, and then maybe adding this. And also for a G minor, for instance, same idea with having this G minor, maybe with this 9th on top. And also for the F major 7, this coming out of this, and then adding the 9 on top. So we have these voicings, and they sound really good, and we can actually work with trying to find some inversions of that, so we have some different variations on that voicing and see if we can use that in a nice way. These voicings sound really good, they're very practical, and they're called drop 2 voicings, and it makes sense to start working with the drop 2 voicings and also the inversions of these drop 2 voicings. Now I'm going to show you some inversions. I'm not going to go into detail with how I'm making the inversions. If you want to dig a little bit into that, and at some point I think you really should, then you should check out my playlist on drop 2 voicings. I'll link to that in a card in this video. Drop 2 voicings is a huge topic, and there's a lot to be found there. You can really do a lot with drop 2 voicings, but you can also get lost in exploring it. So make sure, please promise me that whatever you learn from here, make sure to use it in music. Make sure that when you learn a chord voicing that you hear how it sounds if you're using it in a context, because that's really where it's at. You want to make music with this stuff, and you don't want to have just some theoretical way of putting your fingers on the guitar that you know what is, but that you can't really make music with. If you like this video, then consider checking out my Patreon page. It's because of my patrons that I can keep on making all these videos, and if you join the community around this channel, I can also give you something in return for your support. If you want to check out another 15 levels of stuff that you can do with jazz chords, there's really a lot to explore. Then check out this playlist where I talk about chordal harmony, drop 2 voicings, drop 2 and 4 voicings, different types of passing chords. A lot of fun stuff to check out. If you want to learn jazz and make music, then subscribe to my channel. That's about it for this time. Thank you for watching, and until next time.